Welcome to Operation End Times. I'm your Jedi warrior for Jesus, Bent Hellisted. Today is April 18th, 2012. I want to say hi to all my brothers and sisters out there, especially over at the Vital Truth. Today, we're discussing the Venus Conspiracy, Part 5. Time is running out, my friends. Things are in motion. What I'm going to tell you is, I'm not an astrologer. I'm not, I'm not some computer engineer or rocket scientist. I do have a brain. But some of the things that I might be talking about today, I'll be the first one to tell you that, I'm not some kind of Einstein in that area. So, what I am going to tell you is that there's a divine presence in the knowledge that's being revealed. Just take it for what it's worth. There's a lot of people out there that are hearing things, talking face to face. Speaking of which, before we dive into the Venus Conspiracy, here on Operation End Times, we were having our boot camp, how to become a Jedi warrior for Jesus. And, it was actually a big confirmation from God that, I was given a word, songs, and by just following the path, the lead, eventually it led me to a video by another brother named Doug, where he takes us through the Psalms 38 through 68, the ark that Jesus showed him. And what it literally is boot camp instructions for the end time saints. So you know what? I've linked it into my website under boot camp, what you need to know. And you know what? Every single Jedi warrior has to read that and understand what's going on. Especially, if you're a person out there and you've been hanging your hat on a rapture that is a magic carpet ride around tribulation, then you need to wake up and watch that video from Brother Doug. But, it was confirmation from God, because I'd never heard of that dude, until the other day. And yet the video he put up on YouTube was from 2 years ago. And you know what day he uploaded it to YouTube? Yeah, July 10th, my birthday. Is that coincidence? No, it's not. It's the hand of God at work. So, I'll be quite honest with you. This whole Venus thing, it's not been really easy to put out there, because at times I've thought, I must be crazy or insane. But I've had some words of encouragement from my brothers and sisters out there. So, at this point, I truly believe, Jesus wants me to put this out there, So just ponder all of what you're going to hear. And, for part 6 here, we're going to get into some pretty crazy stuff. But, I've been just letting the wheels in my brain spin, because it was how to present all this. So, I got a piece of paper on the wall here, and I don't know how well this is going to work. But rather than, I thought rather than me pre-draw everything out there, so people be looking at a diagram going, what the hell is that? I thought I will draw the diagram, but, I'll do it right in front of your face. So it's not rehearsed. It's not pre-planned. So bear with me. So anyway, for part 6 of the Venus Conspiracy, Brother Doug, in his video, he does a good job of it, where he talks about the amazing part of God's Word is it can mean a lot of things, different things to different people. So, I've touched on that in some of my videos where, things from God have mirror images, where both good and bad are there, or it's reflective, or, it's used as an example or as a symbol or a sign, So, man, interpretation of God's word is very tricky. And, I think, that's where we come up with the term, the mystery of God. Everybody wants to know who God is. Some people don't. Atheists, they think there is no God. Like they don't even want to think about God. But those of us that believe in a God, they start saying, oh, God is wonderful and God is mighty and, God is just, But some of us sometimes even go too far because we start trying to say, oh, we can think like God. And I'm going to show you why that is that's crazy in and of itself. Is if you as a human, you're sitting here telling somebody, hey, God thinks this way and God thinks that way and this is how it is from God. Because if you think you're the mouthpiece of God, oh, man, you just, you're going to have to be accountable for that. So, this mystery of God, I'll tell you honestly, like I'm going to throw it up there, but, I'm just thinking, who am I to be given this knowledge, and putting things out there, but I'm going to go with it. My heart is telling me it's the right thing to do. But, the mystery of God, the mystery of God. Let's put God up there, all right? I'm just going to draw, and, excuse my drawing, right? I'm not worried about whether things look super good, and hopefully you can see this marker, because I know the lighting here is kind of bright, so I'll even use like double lines, but see, I got kind of like a circular looking thing here, but let's just say it's God. I hope this is visible. If it's not, I'm going to take a look at my camera here. Yeah, I think it can be seen. Okay. So we got the round circular thing, God. And we're made in his image. So that gives us some clues that we look like God. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're not God. Just because we're in his image, that doesn't mean you are God. And if you're thinking you're God, oh my God, you got problems. But the thing about God, like we use a lot of terms, in the Bible, which sounds similar to us, like the body of God, the head of God, the right hand of God. That's used a lot, the right hand of God. So, you know what? God kind of has a head, and let's just say there's even a brain in there, or the mind of God, and it's basically divided into right and left. Just the exact way our brains are divided into a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. And then, we've heard of the right hand of God. So let's draw the right hand of God in, man. Let's just throw it out here and coming out here like this way, man. And, I'm not trying to be a great drawer, but there's the right hand of God. And, I'm hoping this works right because we're dealing with a camera and camera angles, but I'm hoping from your angle, the right hand of God should be on the left side, but from his perspective, it's on the right. Just like, my right arm you should be looking to the left of me, but it's actually my right arm, whereas my left arm is on the right side, That's what happens when you reverse things. That's once again one of those tricky things about looking at the Bible and Scripture and trying to understand God, man, because it goes, like Brother Doug was showing the spiral concept. Yeah, I buy that. And, God, since he's the king, we use the term a lot, the throne of God. So I'm just going to draw in a throne, a square throne. The throne. And God's sitting on the throne with his right hand. And you know what the Bible clearly says? God has hands. Jesus had two hands. But there's a left hand. We'll throw this out here. Left hand. Right hand. Left hand. Then on the throne, there's a power base. Because I don't know if it is the throne, but there's a power base on the throne. It shines like the sun. So guess what? Is associated with the throne is the sun. There it is, the sun. The sun. the Son of God. But you know what? The Son of God is not the Son. God is not the Son. You know, if you're worshiping the Son, that it's God, oh, you know what? That's not right. You know, listen to it. The Son of God. So it's like the Son is of God. You know, like when you look at the sun in the sky, God made the sun and his glory is reflected right on down through it. The light that we see and receive from the sun is power directly from God. But the sun itself is not God. You know, so when you hear about these ancient cultures that were sun worshipers, guess what? They weren't worshiping God. You know, when you hear about Quetzalcoatl coming back, that's a bad thing, man. You know, that ain't God. You know, that's the big date, 5/20. I'm going to throw it out there in case this video gets too long and I got to do a part 7. But on May 20th, that's the day when they say Quetzalcoatl's coming back. And I got an itchy feeling that's kind of what's brewing. And we'll get to that. You know, because there's just some mind-blowing stuff that's coming out of this. But we've all heard of the right hand of God. In fact, you know, Jesus, a lot of times all through the Bible and even the Old Testament stuff, when they're talking, looking into the future, looking at their Savior and their Redeemer, you know, Jesus, he's always saying on the right hand of God, on the right hand of God. And you know what? It's just like the brain, right, left, right? Right is righteous. Left is like left behind. You know? Left behind. Like God will leave you behind. But like, you know what, in our human brains, what you find out is the right side of our brain controls the emotions. You know, love, hate, compassion, mercy. You know, some really good stuff. And you know, every time in the Bible that they're saying the right hand of God, or Jesus is saying, you know, someone's saying Jesus is going to be sitting on the right hand or does sit on the right hand of God, that's all super positive stuff, man. That's where we sing out with joy. You know, singing is part of the right side of the brain. You know, the right side of the brain, that's where art is. That's where dreams are. That's where the imagination of man is. The right side of God. Salvation's over here, you know. And I'm going to tell you, you know, it's like mirror reflective images. So evil takes advantage of the right side as much as it takes advantage of the left side. I'll show you that. You know, like hate. You know, love, hate, that ain't good. Hate ain't good. You don't want to be hating on anybody. You know, Jesus says, love God, love your neighbor, love, love, love. So the left side of the brain is where you find logic, reason, the law, punishment. Left side, logic, reason, the law, punishment, judgment. That's all on the left side. And guess what? You do hear about the left side, the left hand of God in the Bible. But when you hear about the left hand of God, it's dark. It's scary. That's you know, it's the left side that pours out the wrath. It's the left side that has the scales of justice. And you know, the dark side, Satan, he loves living on the left side, you know, of logic and reason, because, you know, when it comes to God, you know, in your faith in God, whether you believe in God or not, you're actually better off being over here on the right side. And through just complete faith, without any proof, without any signs, without anything, you just love God. That's it, plain and simple. But you know, over here on the logic side, you know, that's the doubting Thomas side, because you need logic, you need reason. You need to actually see the nail holes and stick your finger in Jesus' wounds to say, oh, okay, now I believe. You know, but if you go down the road of logic, it's very easy to lose sight of God, especially if you start talking like you know how God thinks, you know, that you know the logic of God. Oh, geez, you know, fools that think they understand the logic of God. But anyway, we got to get through this presentation. So I'm going to throw some stuff at you real quick. On the right hand of God, the sun is a power base for God. The sun is good. Plants grow. On the right hand side of God is the planet Venus. And in the middle here, the body, like the belly, let's just say that's Earth. So what's over here on the left side? Well, you know what we find? It's Mercury. Mercury is on the left side of God. When you're looking at the throne of God, the right side Venus, the left side Mercury. And Venus is the planet of love. Mercury, the planet of logic. The symbol for Mercury is healing. The twisted serpents, DNA, science. Venus is known as the destroyer. And you know what? If you're on the dark side, because I'm going to tell you something here, man. God is both light and dark. God created everything. Satan has no power whatsoever, except the power you give him. But on the left side, Mercury, logic, but punishment, judgment. So there's huge energy flowing on the left side. And Jesus is constantly, even in the Old Testament, New Testament, it says anything when they're talking about Jesus, they say he will rule with a rod of iron. Well, I'll tell you right now, they're not talking about the right side. They're talking about the left side. That once Jesus returns, the left side's going to actually be enforced. So evil's not going to be able to exist. Satan right now is taking advantage of the left side because, he's crafty. The deception is everywhere, and he'll reason and logic, and through logic, he'll talk you right out of believing in God. But the rod of iron is over here on the left side. And here's an interesting fact. You know what Mercury is made up of? Iron. It's the most dense planet in our solar system. Mercury. Pure iron. Is that coincidence? I don't think so. But check this out, man. Energy comes from the sun to Earth. God's sending us his love and his energy in the form of sunlight and protons. And, I'm not a rocket scientist, but, it's whatever is coming from the sun. Comes to us on Earth and gives us life. Without the sun, there wouldn't be life. But Venus and Mercury are also power bases of God. The love through the right side, and then, the logic and the law and the punishment and all that's good stuff through the left side. But guess what? People that are dark, that deny God, that ain't following God, they view this left side. They shake with fear. They are scared to death of this left side because that's why they call it the destroyer, because there's destruction over there. That's where destruction comes from, the left side. And we're living in an electric universe. And you know what? I don't know everything. I really don't. But, when they talk about Jesus coming, it's always with lightning from one end of the sky to the other. But, lightning could easily flow from the sun, cosmic lightning bolts through a lightning rod, the rod of iron, Mercury, and perhaps to Earth, to strike the Earth. There's evidence, I've linked in some videos where they show that Mars looks like it was hit by a huge lightning bolt. But these two planets, Mercury and Venus, they totally affect the Earth, Like, if you look at, this is where, if you understand looking at the signs in the heavens, Mercury and Venus, that's the key to unlocking the understanding of what we're seeing. And, I'm going to tell you that's why there's urgency with what I'm laying out here right now, because I'm looking at Venus and Mercury, the morning star. The morning stars were there when God laid the foundations of the earth, and they sang with joy and praise. And you know what? That's a key element to what us, the end time saints, need to figure out, because if you go through the Jedi Warrior Boot Camp, the video that Doug put up there, that's one of the things, where it's part of your relationship with God, and it's how we get saved, man, is that no matter what is happening in your life as we go through this tribulation that's about to unfold, is you never stop praising God. Sing to the Lord. But anyway, Mercury and Venus, Venus is the prophecy star. You know, when you're watching Venus go through the heavens, it's when Venus hooks up. You know, that's what we know is the star Bethlehem, is when Venus hooked up with Jupiter in the constellation of Leo by the king star Regis, I think it is, or Regulus. You know, I may not have got that right, but they believe that was the star Bethlehem. But Venus was in it, marking it, you know, showing, leading people to the birth of Jesus. And, you know, that's why looking in the skies with Venus, you know, it's telling us exactly what's going on. I'm going to throw this out there. You know, look at this. Venus, the sun, Mercury, right? We got a once-in-a-lifetime event coming up, which is the transit of Venus on 6.5, 6.6. It's like right in there because maybe it's happening in the morning. But what I was going to tell you is, you know, the morning stars sung, but Jesus promises us, the end time saints, he goes, I will give you the morning star. And that's actually a piece of what we need to be aware of is right now more than ever, if you're praying to God, meditating on God, thinking about God, pondering God, which is all good stuff, you know, do it in the morning. That's a good time to do it. But you could do it all day long and you could do it at night too. But there's a connection in the morning as the sun rises with the morning stars, man, where you can pump up the energy that you're getting from God. Because, see, that's the other thing, man. Darkness is coming, which is, it doesn't have nothing to do with the energy of God, the darkness. But look at the diagram. Venus, the sun, Mercury, the transit coming up. Venus goes into retrograde, and literally in the sky, it goes from left to right, because it's going backwards as it crosses the sun on the 5th, and it signifies a transfer of power. And you know, we're thinking, what's that transfer of power? Well, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not God transferring anything to Satan. You know, that fool's on his own. But I'll tell you, this is what I'm getting from God, man, is the reason why we hear so much about the right hand of God with Jesus is because we've been living in this right hand world, you know, where salvation is ours and God's love is just pouring out for us, you know. But the time has come, the cycle. Things don't last forever. And Venus transiting left to right, it's actually transferring the balance of power of God himself, where it's going from just pure love for us, where he loved us so much that he gave us his only begotten son, to where it's transiting to the left hand, where lies judgment and destruction. Because that's what's coming. That's what the Venus transit signifies, is that the left side of God, the rod of iron, is in front of us. And you know what? If you don't get on board as an end time saint, you're going to be, you know, wondering what the heck is going on. You know, because the wilderness is coming up. We're going to have to leave Babylon, and I'm telling you that there's a whole process where what the process is to help light us up, to tie into the energy of God. Because, you know, there's all sorts of stuff involved in the end time scenario, you know, the final week where, you know, there's going to be a star involved and a day of heat that just fries it, whatever's around, you know. And I'm going to tell you, when the left hand of God executes judgment and destruction, it'll take out both the good and the bad. You know, when Sodom and Gomorrah was getting destroyed, if Lot would have stayed in that city, he'd have been as dead as everybody else in that city. So, you know, think about it. You know, if you're behind in Babylon, when Babylon gets destroyed, it doesn't matter what you believe in, you're going to get destroyed too. You know, and maybe if you believe in God and you're in Babylon and you get, it's the end of your world because you're destroyed, well, maybe you're there at the end because you believed in God, you know. So when God gathers up all his saints, you know, both the living and the dead, somehow you're there. But, you know, God, most of the time in the Bible, when he says, I'm pouring out my wrath, he tells the righteous to run. Get out of there. But I'm going to tell you, Satan is crafty. You know, the deception of the end times it's so bad. You know, even the elect, you know, who are the elect? It could be me or you, you know. God is the one that chooses you. God is the one that elects you, you know. So you're just begging him for mercy that you could be one of those lucky people. But the destruction, the punishment coming, the destroyer cometh, Mercury. And you know, the sun, something might be happening there as well. So, you know, we've had some visions and some information from God, and I'm actually still looking at the Mercury end, you know, because that's really the scary end. But, you know, just to have it out there for anybody, you know, 2013, and I somehow have this date of November 3rd, man, you know, but that's purely speculative. Because, you know, one of the mysteries of God, and it was there at the beginning and it's there at the end, which is time in and of itself, you know. The signs in the heavens, you know, tell us things, but you never get an exact reading like, oh, this will happen at exactly 6:30 a.m. on this day, you know. So the exact, you know, we know Venus transits the sun on the 6th, you know, we know that. And I'll tell you, I think the power will be shifted at that point, you know. But what is it that you're going to see in your life that day? You know, hard to say, you know. But that's why, you know, the common sense, the logical thing is to prepare. Get your head in the right place. All right, you know, I got a few more crazy things I want to get out there. You know, I'm just going to kind of look through my notes. So bear with me. You know, a Bible verse, Isaiah 40 verse 22. It says, he that sitteth on the circle of the earth. You know, look at that. The way the throne is, you know, it's like an orbit. You know, kind of looks like a circle, doesn't it? And that's what you find out about the Bible, you know, is that the references are there, you know. I'm going to try and get through this here for you. But we were talking about the Venus transit. You know, once again, looking at the diagram, we got the head of God, his brain, he's sitting on the throne, the sun's there, it's sending us the light. Well, you know, once again, you know, what's down here is, you know, is like our brain. Right, left. You know, so the energy and information coming from God comes down into our literal brains. And you know what? There's a thing known as the pineal gland in our brain. It's a light receptor. It catches the light and sends it directly into our DNA. It encodes it right into our genetic fabric. So, you know, when you're wondering how you're getting all this information, you know, like that's one thing I've figured out, you know, when I'm like, where's all this coming from? It's coming from God. The light. You know, Jesus says if your eye is filled with light, your eye, the pineal gland, your body will be of light. But if your eye is filled with darkness, your body will be dark. And you know what? We as humans, we can either understand how the pineal gland works and get it to light up like a Christmas bulb to where it's literally burning a flame on the top of your head. Or, you know what? You could shut it off because the pineal gland opens the gates of your brain, the circuitry inside. And that's where you get revelations and ideas and all this positive stuff on the right side, dreams. But if you shut the pineal gland down, if it no longer receives the light of God, then you'll lose all that. What'll be left is you'll be shaking in your boots all fearful of God and His wrath. That's one of my problems I have with the rapture people, man, is they're living on the left side of the brain because they're like, you know what, I don't want to talk about all that death and destruction. It's all scary and Jesus is going to come down and give me a magic carpet ride around it. Well, you know, I got news for you. That isn't how it works. You need to definitely fear what's over here, but if your relationship with God is all right, you got nothing to fear over here. You know, all that judgment's coming for people that are on the dark side. But the pineal gland, you know, it's a scientific fact. You know, do the research yourself. Look up the pineal gland of how it works. You know, it's science, you know, which is actually the left side of the brain. But, you know, most people in the Old Testament, they point to Jacob when he saw the ladder to heaven and the angels coming up and down because he named the place Peniel. And guess what? That's a form of pineal gland. And then in Luke 2, we have two people that when they meet Jesus as a child, one is Simeon. And he makes a prophecy that's just mind-blowing because he talks about Jesus giving us the morning star and a sword. you know, like a weapon and a tool for the end times. But then there's a prophetess, Anna, who is fasting and praying, but she's the daughter of Phanuel, which is another play of the word penal. You know, and it means face of God, because if your penal is lighting up your brain and you're receiving the light of God, you're literally talking to God face to face. And the pineal gland secretes a hormone, melatonin, which turns your skin white. And it tends to lighten your face. So when you hear about people in the Bible talking to God face to face, like Moses, their face shows the glory of God because it's lightened, you know. And the melatonin also is an antitoxin, so it's good for your body. And, you know, so when your pineal gland is lit up, when you're thinking positive, you're healthier. Whereas if you're dark, with all this negativity, your pineal gland shuts down and your health shuts down, your immune system and all that. And you know what? I'm a living testimony to that, because I changed when I got divorced. I was an angry dude and I had this ball of negative energy in me, and man, it took me down. It humbled me. You know, I came down with a life-threatening, you know, 2 times I came down with life-threatening conditions, including diabetes, which I have to this day. But, you know, this is where the news gets scary, because you know, something might be coming to Earth, you know, perhaps around May 20th. Quetzalcoatl. But whatever this thing is, it's not God, and it wants to shut your pineal gland down. It wants darkness to spread over the earth. It wants, when you read about the end times where it says the stars and the sun no longer give their light, it's not talking about the sun disappearing out of the sky or the stars turning off. Because I guarantee you, they've been there for a long time and they'll be shining for a lot longer still. But what's shutting off is your body's ability to receive the light from the sun or the stars, which is all positive energy coming from God. And you go into darkness. You don't want to be in darkness. All right. One of the other concepts for the end time is you'll find a lot of references to shielding. Shielding. You know, the armor of God, you get a sword and a shield. You know, and if you look in the sky to Orion, there's Orion's shield. And guess what? Venus is going to be transiting Orion's shield. So shields are becoming really, really important in the end times. And you know what I'm going to tell you is even Satan, he is interested in shields. Because, you know, there might be a day of heat where literally anything that's on the dark side, you know, if you're not ready, because I'm going to tell you, it's only God and Jesus that's going to save you, man. And your pineal gland is going to have to be lit up if you want to survive, have a shield on the heat. But the dark side, you know what? They don't want to get burned up either. So they're trying to build a shield. You know, Satan wants a shield. He's trying to protect himself from what's coming too. But that's between him and God. But you know what? He's using mankind. That's one thing Satan is good at, is he's tricking mankind. He's creating a deception in the end times that, you know what? Even though there's a 7-year window, it says, you know, Jesus cuts it short, man, because if he doesn't, even the elect, you know, the people that God chooses himself, they're going to be fooled. But, you know, when you look at shielding, you know, Satan's into technology. I guarantee you. You know, using the internet, like they just had the video of Tupac Shakur, you know, where they used 3-dimensional holographic projections and people were like, oh, he's back from the dead. That's all trickery. You know, Satan misleading people. You know, nowadays you don't know what to believe. You can't believe TV. You know, things can be digitally modified. And this is where it gets really scary. You know, because does Satan have an organization that he can use that has technology? And the answer is yes. It's called NASA. And you know what? This sounds crazy, and I don't care. People can tell me, Bent, you're nuts. You know, quit talking bad about NASA. But you know, if you take NASA and rearrange the letters and add a T in there, it spells Satan. And you know, we all know that the early scientists that designed the rockets, you know, for NASA were all occultists and Freemasons. You know, that's just a fact. You know, look up Jack Parsons, or I think his name might have been John Parsons. He kind of went by 2 names for whatever reasons. But when you see, he was the disciple of Aleister Crowley, which was the head of the Satanic Church. But anyway, the latest announcement is, you know, the current program for NASA is called the Orion Space Program. You think that's just by coincidence? No, it's not. There's no coincidences here. And their latest announcement is they just they just said, hey, we just selected the materials for the shielding for the Orion program, like the shield in Orion that you're seeing in the sky. And I was just thinking, man, what's that all about? And they literally tell you what the new compound is. The abbreviation for it is P.I.C.A, you know? And you think like the United States, USA. So I'm going to give you the full name of this thing, but even P.I.C.A, it's an abbreviation. I looked up P.I.C.A. It's a digital measurement. It's 4.2 millimeters. It's 1/6 of an inch. It's 1/72 of a foot. All of that is, numerology, numbers you find in the Bible. And guess what? It's also the definition of P.I.C.A is an appetite for clay, or for non-nutritional material. And you know what? That's important, because what you're going to find out is if you want your pineal gland lit up, it actually matters probably what you eat. And that's part of the end times. Your diet's going to become important, what you eat. And, God may even provide us food in the wilderness, which will help our pineal glands. So we need to understand that. But guess what? Satan wants to throw a wrench into the whole thing. So you know what? He's probably been feeding us all sorts of stuff that's not good for the pineal gland. Trying to get it to snuff it out, our candles. But anyway, P.I.C.A, what does it stand for? It's phenolic impregnated carbon, which is 666 ablator. And I'm not a scientist, so I'm just like, whoa. Phenolic impregnated. That impregnated doesn't even sound like a compound. It sounds like a process, like you impregnate somebody. And guess what? We just saw a sign in the heavens, with Saturn coming out of Virgo on 11/11/11. And there's another sign coming up on either the 7th of July or the 14th, but it's Saturn coming out of Virgo again, because Virgo was impregnated with something. Carbon, the molecular number for carbon is 666. Phenolic, that word jumped at me because it sounds just like the pineal gland, It sounds like the father of Anna, phenol. But I looked up phenolic, and it's just mind-blowing, because phenolic, you can have synthetic phenolic and you can have natural phenolic substances. So I immediately thought, well, you know what, Satan, he'd be into the synthetic, because he's all about fakeness and creating deception where, all synthetics, I'm telling you, I wear synthetics, like nylon, or, like it's all in all the new materials and stuff, and plastic, we use it every day, but all that stuff is bad, in the long run it is. That's why we banned plastic bags here in San Jose. But synthetic phenolic, it's called polyphenols. And I don't even care how the heck that stuff's made. I really don't. But it's synthetic, and I'm going to guarantee you it will shut down your pineal gland. And that's part of the problem with our world today, is our whole food supply is genetically manipulated. It's not natural anymore, and I guarantee you it's not helping our pineal glands. But now here's once again, P.I.C.A, phenolic impregnated carbon ablator. So just this morning I thought, well, I better look up ablator, because already the name of this compound was sending willies down my spine. But ablator, you know what? There's a verbal form of it called ablation. Like when I looked up ablator in the dictionary, ablation's right there, because noun, the verbal form of a noun. But what the definition of ablation is, and it almost sounds like a form of a name, of an angel or something. But the definition was the removal of a body part or the destruction of its function. Oh, like the new shielding for NASA is using synthetic phenolic compounds that will remove it's an ablator for the removal of a body part or the destruction of its function. Because guess what? Satan doesn't want our pineal glands working, man. Because once they stop, you're cut off from God, man. You're no longer connected. That's what's coming, folks. Wake up. The good news is, phenols come in natural compounds, and when I looked that up, you know what? I'm going to do a little more research, but you'll find out phenols are in all the good stuff you should be eating, like berries, chocolate, coffee, vegetables, nuts. So, I truly believe if you eat the right foods, you're going to help charge up your pineal gland, which will keep you connected to God, man. So our diets might become very important in the next coming months and years. So I'm going to try and get more information out on that. Hey, you know what? I'm going to just wrap it up here because this thing's gone way too long, but I'll try and follow up with more information. If there's anything you guys want to ask of me, please do. You know, it all sounds crazy, but you know what? I'm just a person, you know, a man who believes in his God, that recognizes God, that I rejoice in God. And so maybe that's why he's, you know, letting me be a vessel to disseminate some information. All right. God bless everybody. This is Operation End Times. This is Ben Hellestead, your Jedi warrior for Jesus, preparing for the end times, preparing for the Latter-day Saints, you know, trying to make sure I'm maybe one of the elected. I'd like that, you know. But, you know, this is the Venus Conspiracy, Part 5, and God bless y'all. All right.